And it's not rocket science to see that since her arrival and the rest of that 2024 class, the WNBA has skyrocketed.
Finally, we have a WNBA player willing to admit that Caitlin Clark is the reason for the elevation of pretend basketball into the mainstream. Finally, we have a WNBA player willing to admit Caitlin Clark is the reason that they are no longer making minimum wage. Now, of course, not everyone is willing to admit that. According to fans of Caitlin Clark, or as the WNBA prefers to call them, diehard fans of our league. According to Caitlin Clark fans, the Great White Hope is once again being diminished and disrespected by the mainstream media. The other day, ESPN published a list of the top 50 players in the WNBA. Now, normally, Uncle Casey does not pay attention to these doofus lists. They're completely subjective. They're a waste of time. It's just a way for ESPN to generate traffic and piss off diehard supporters of Caitlin Clark. These top 10 lists, they used to be real prevalent here on YouTube, but thankfully, that's no longer the case. Well, Uncle KC, who's on your YouTuber top 10? Me, and me again. Anyway, ESPN published a list of the supposed top 50 pretend basketball players in the WNBA dump. It doesn't take very long to figure out that ESPN is basing their list pretty much on statistics and not on impact. Number 1 on the list, AJ Wilson, or as Bam Adebayo prefers to call her, Bay. Paige Beckers is supposedly the 8th best player in the WNBA. Okay. I mean, the Dallas Wankers were one of the worst teams in the league last season in both attendance and their win-loss record. But clearly, ESPN is still trying to convince us that Paige Beckers is a huge star. Kelsey the Plumber is number 9 on the list, but that's okay. The city of Los Angeles just released their list of the top plumbers in the People's Republic of California. Kelsey ranked number 1 on that list. According to ESPN, Caitlin Clark is barely, and I mean barely, a top 10 player in this league. Check out some of these players that ESPN ranked ahead of Caitlin Clark. Alyssa Thomas, Jackie Young, Alicia Gray. Who, and who? This would be like the NBA putting out a list of their top players from the 90s, and ranked ahead of Michael Jordan is John Starks, Larry Johnson, and Steve Urkel. If you're going to rank NBA players, you really need to have 2 lists. One includes Michael Jordan, and the other list includes everyone else. In terms of overall impact, it is the same in the WNBA. You have Caitlin Clark, along with a list of names that appear on the missing persons report. ESPN knew exactly what they were doing with this doofus list. They knew it would piss people off, which I really don't understand, because the networks, they need Caitlin Clark. They need her fan base to be engaged. They need her fan base to watch this product. Hell, you can make the case that ESPN and the networks, they need Caitlin Clark more than the WNBA does, because they are the ones paying to broadcast this turd of a league. There is a reason every network was begging for the Indiana Felines. There is a reason that every game involving Caitlin Clark will be nationally televised. ESPN also knew that this list would generate interest in a league that is already struggling to sell tickets. This was the attendance last night for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Felines preseason finale. There were more people on the court than in the seats. Now, in their defense, the Felines were playing Nigeria, which is a weird matchup for a preseason game for the Indiana Felines since, according to Angel Reese and her pretend friends in the mainstream media, Caitlin Clark fans are racist. There have been multiple reports that Caitlin Clark is struggling to sell tickets. The demand just isn't the same. Speaking of Angel Reese, though, what I found most interesting about this list is where ESPN ranks their face of the league. Unfortunately for Angel Reese, the polish seems to be melting off the turd. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Today on the second channel, going to be talking about the latest antics of Diego Pavia. Supposedly, the self-described phenom was making it rain on strippers the night before the NFL draft. I know it's not uncommon for athletes to be partying in strip clubs, but I'll explain why this is a hindrance and why continued behavior like this could destroy the NFL career of Diego Pavia. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. For the better part of 2 years, ESPN has tried to convince us that Angel Reese is the face of the WNBA. Not only is the matriarch of Me-Bounds the face of the league, according to the media, Angel Reese is the most dominant basketball player in the world. Have you seen her stats? Wowzer! This young woman is a double-double machine! With this list being compiled by ESPN, you would think Angel Reese would be in the top 5, right? At minimum, the woman responsible for inventing a new statistic called Me-Bounds would not only be a top 10 player in the WNBA, Angel Reese should be ranked as a top 10 player in all of basketball, both real and pretend. Right? According to ESPN, Angel Reese isn't even a top 20 player in a league filled with players who would struggle to beat a team of high school boys. But what was most telling about this is the reason ESPN had Angel Reese ranked at number 22. With her shedding her false bravado to become the star of the Atlanta Dreamers, Angel Reese needs to continue to do what she does best, which is dominate the glass. Angel Reese is the best rebounder and me-bounder in the WNBA. Translation: ESPN is basically admitting that Angel Reese is a role player. In basketball, there are essentially 2 types of players. You have stars, you have players that you build your franchise around, players that are capable of being the face of your franchise. In the NBA, this would be LeBron James, Cooper Flagg, Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, in the WNBA, there's only one star, Caitlin Clark. If you're not a star player, then you are a role player. The vast majority of players, they fall into this category. Truth is, Angel Reese has always been a role player. The problem is, The media has desperately tried to convince us that Angel Reese is a star. If you dare to have the audacity to question their false narrative, the media will charge you with violating the woke commandments. You'll be accused of mythical racism, you'll be accused of mythical misogyny, or in the case of my boy John Root, you'll be accused of bullying women. Check it out for yourself. Earlier this week, John Root commented on Angel Reese and her abysmal performance in her immaculate return to Chicago. According to Holly Rowe at ESPN, this is unacceptable. How dare the white man bully this innocent black woman? As you can see, criticism is not allowed. Not only is criticism of WNBA players not allowed, you're also not allowed to question the lack of profit that this league generates. Take a look at this. The media is now trying to convince us that the WNBA is the most financially lucrative league in America. Now, me personally, I have never heard of this metric before. I have never seen someone analyze the financial health of a league based on something called a value to revenue multiplier. But according to Sportico, the WNBA is financially outperforming every other league. Let me ask you something. If the WNBA was generating millions of dollars in profit, hell, if the WNBA was generating dozens of pesos in profit, don't you think we would know about it? This league issues a press release every time a pretend basketball game eclipses 500,000 viewers. They were bragging the other day because a preseason game drew 700,000. But when it comes to generating profit, we haven't heard a damn thing from the WNBA and their pretend friends in the media. I wonder why. You know what else we haven't heard about since this new CBA was announced? Unrivaled. Uncle Casey, Unrivaled's in the middle of their off-season. I'm sure they will be generating plenty of interest when their season starts again in January. Oh, yeah? Because I'm thinking that Unrivaled is on the verge of going out of business. For starters, TNT, which is the only thing keeping this secondary dump alive, TNT has an out clause in their contract after next season, with Unrivaled failing to draw a single fly to a fresh turd. I can't imagine that TNT is making money on this secondary dump. But more importantly, WNBA players no longer have a reason to play in Unrivaled. You gotta remember, the only reason Unrivaled was started was to give WNBA players an opportunity to make more than minimum wage. With the average WNBA salary around $600,000 this season, with top players making over $1 million, why would they risk injury? Why would they risk losing that money to make $200,000 in Unrivaled? In order for a business to survive, it's got to fill a need in the market. Now, viewers, they never asked for more pretend basketball. The only need Unrivaled filled was giving players a chance to make money. With the WNBA now filling that need, what purpose does Unrivaled serve? Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.